We as a company have been in operation since 1939. My great-grandfather had moved here in 1920. It was a thriving economy. The university was commonly known as the Athens of West Africa. I believe it had the first railway line on the continent, all sorts of firsts. Since that time, there have been macro-level challenges that have led to the years that followed. And that culminated eventually in the Civil War.
When people are at such a low level of development, when the leaders are dealing with such difficult situations, there is a tendency to look for short-term gains. Short-term gains do not work in development. But politicians have to respond to the next general elections. So they prepare for the next general elections by looking for those kinds of projects, programs that will yield results very rapidly. Let us just simple example. If you want to move our agricultural products down to the coast, you're better off doing it with a train than with the roads. So when you start to talk to the government about the importance of a railway just after the war, people's eyes just glaze. What are you talking about? How long is that going to take? I need something immediately. What happens is that you have these kinds of decisions that are made not on the basis of careful study, but on the basis of political expediency.
Well, there's a serious dearth of quality statistics.
Data is very key because policy has to be informed. It has to be evidence-based. So you can't just wake up one morning and you say, people are not happy. Where is the evidence?
Curiously, the work we did on trade, the first one was on the cross-border trade. In discussion, we said we don't really know what is going on in the border areas. We talk about it, we say there's a lot of trade, but we had no hard facts. In what, when, by whom? And he challenged us to come up with a study on cross-border trade. We had two excellent people, one of whom is now the head of the National Revenue Authority.
The research issue was, are we really sure that this data is correct?
The IGC has been very, very relevant. As a research group, they've been helping, particularly Sierra Leone, to be able to put together the trade statistics.
The government is now developing a trade and investment policy and strategy. The results of the cross-border trade suggests, for instance, that our biggest export potentially across the border is Gary. Right now it's done at small production level, but the potential is huge. Part of the investment strategy would be how to promote wide-scale scaling up of the production of Gary.
Such information provided by IGC gave us first-hand experience of what obtained at the border, which we were not privy to prior to now. It also showcased leakages in terms of revenue escape.
Do not need to talk to me now to say, oh, you have to control smuggling. I have done it. I have looked at the work. I have had the evidence.
Well, briefly, AGOA is the Africa Growth Opportunities Act.
It's really an act that allows African countries
duty-free access to USA.
It's an aid for trade strategy developed by the Americans.
Sierra Leone has not performed, has not been able to take advantage.
After years and years, nothing happened, lots of talk, nothing happened. They came to us and asked us, would we please design the strategy? We saw this as an opening, revealing to government the inconsistencies, the obstacles, etc., to private sector. If the private sector is not strong, they will not be able to train.
An improved business climate.
Export via Queen Elizabeth II Key is very minimal.
But also the production base is very, very weak. I mean, if you don't have anything to produce, how can you export it? So until we do something about the production base, then export is going to be low. 70% of the people are involved in agriculture. There is hardly anything that we export in terms of agriculture. It is very, very kind of subsistent agriculture.
So what we did in the case of AGOA is to look at the entire value chain, if you want, beginning from the legal and regulatory framework down to actually getting it out of the country.
As a very small country, we have to leverage using a comparative advantage. And therefore, we had to see what we have comparative advantages in.
We're the only company in Sierra Leone that is currently exporting palm oil. It is a difficult environment to operate in. The infrastructure needs to be addressed, the ports need to be addressed.
Laws, inconsistent, incompatible laws.
Infrastructure is very poor, so roads, so transport is expensive.
Bad interpretation and application of these laws.
The processes are very, I could say, cumbersome.
Bureaucratic.
I'll give you an example. For exporting, one needs the signature of either the permanent secretary or the minister to carry out each and every export.
Here is a case where for every single package that an exporter had to take out of the country, you had to get a formal letter of approval from the minister. Now, a minister is not there every day to give you letters, so that increases your costs, it wastes your time. Let's say we made it clear to government that this was really not adding any value to the process. Now it's gone. And I hope it stays gone.
The good thing is about IGC, they have been sounding the client call and providing the requisite statistics and data to show the policymakers that this needs attention.
That's a dream for Africa. A united Africa is really the goal of the African Union. Sierra Leone is no longer the 7 million market. We immediately become a 45 million market if you're looking only at the immediate vicinity of Cote d'Ivoire, Guinea, and Liberia.
What they're doing for us is wonderful, and particularly that the African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement has come into effect, and the development and even in coming up with new legislations in so many grey areas.
This country has gone through several reforms. In our view, one of the biggest weaknesses relates to the amount of analytical work that is done before these reforms are adopted.
Helping us in building the capacity of this country to develop data. As a developing country, we need a lot of that to be able to break new frontiers with regards policy around trade and industry.